You're listening to Tech Me Seriously with Sarah Tenisi, CEO of TenisiTech. Candid conversations with driven technology and business professionals who've always got something interesting to say.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tenisi, the host of Tech Me Seriously and the CEO of TenisiTech, an IT services firm headquartered in California. Today, I'm thrilled to be speaking to June On. June is TenisiTech's director of sales. I love doing internal conversations so that people can get a sense of who we are as a team and kind of some of the challenges that we have in each of the roles that we have internally, whether it's compliance or selling or whatever else it is. So June is a community builder. This is how I would describe you. You've built a business group of over 600 people. The group meets weekly to explore different business topics and highlight the companies that participate. And when June joined Tenisi Tech, we spent a lot of time discussing community, culture, and what that means kind of in terms of selling, and even in terms of selling as like a services company. So here we are, 6 months in, and with his decades long selling experience and many, many conversations in his arsenal, we thought it might be interesting to explore the topic of selling technology in an AI age and really from the perspective of somebody that hasn't always sold technology. So the topic today is relationship selling in IT services. Welcome, June. So glad you could make it.
Thank you, thank you. I'm excited to be on. And as far as that community goes, we're actually approaching 1,000 local business owners, executives. Yes, community. We've talked about it before. Community to me is everything.
That's right. And so for anybody local to Encinitas, to the San Diego, North County area, like reach out to us and come be a part of this group. It's so funny because even before you worked here, I heard about the group. I heard about your work in the group. And literally just 2 weeks ago, I met somebody that's in the group and said, "Hey, you're Tenisi Tech and June works with you and I go to his group." And so I love that about you. I think that that's part of what is missing in the world in general.
Yes, absolutely, and especially with such a fast-paced industry and the different industries. I mean, the community connection. That's something that's kind of a rare lost art, and I love it.
Exactly. So that's kind of why we're talking about this, right? I mean, when you said, "Hey, let's have this conversation," what was kind of on your mind when we decided to do this?
Well, I mean, first, it's been extremely interesting because my background isn't technology. I've done sales for probably 20 years of my life now, and I've been a part of several different large corporations and different companies, and the way Tenisi has does it internally, the culture, everything that you really built is so different, and it honestly, it's how it should be. I just wanted to make it public. I want more people to hear about it.
I love it. So what are some of the things you've observed and what's been most interesting to you?
It's interesting because, Tenisi Tech I mean, again, you started the company and it's grown and it's not an extremely large company, but we act like a large corporation, but with a family atmosphere. So that's one of those things where a lot of companies, you kind of reach that threshold where you start to become a larger company, you start dealing with larger companies and you lose that kind of family atmosphere. So we're efficient like a corporation is, but we still have the values of kind of that family atmosphere.
And we've sort of it's so funny. I don't know, we don't talk about this too much. And we even thought about doing a kind of episode on what it's like to work with family, what it's like to grow a company. But at the beginning it was me, my brother, my sister, as time went on, it might be some nephews and nieces or, some of these people that were starting to get into life. I always thought IT was a great place to start, but for a long time we swept the family thing under the rug. It was like too small. Me, my husband, my siblings. It felt too small. And I remember hiring that first kind of non-family person. And it was like at that point, it was like, do we tell people right away? Or do we let them sort of figure it out naturally? Because I think the thing that I was always worried about is that would people would think that just because we're family, we're not a company, right? And like there was like we were just giving jobs to family members. Now it's completely different. Most of us are not related. We're at like 35 people, but it was important to us to sort of want to come to work here. I worked in, this because I've been on your podcast, but I worked in big companies and I really just got to the point where it was like, oh my God, I just can't get in there today. I just don't want to. And so when I started TenisiTech, I was really intentional about hopefully making a place where people wouldn't feel like that all the time. I know it happens for all of us sometimes, but you know what I mean.
Oh, sure. No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's one of those things where, I always tell people, whatever you do it with joy. And at TenisiTech, it honestly, I wake up, I'm excited to be able to make the connections, the conversations, and really speak on TenisiTech. And I mean, you've done a great job internally, and I think that family kind of atmosphere, that family mindset, it doesn't mean that we're not professional, because we do a lot of things to advance kind of our day to day productivity, and that's what's great about the leadership. That's great. That's what's great about the people in there. Everyone has that kind of getting better agenda, and you see people in all different parts of the company studying, getting educated, getting licensed, and really advancing their education. So, and what that does is, I mean, we can pass that on to our clients.
Exactly. And I mean, that's part of what I feel like I wanted to do was create a company that was enterprise level for smaller companies. You know, like we know how to run IT because we've done it for companies and for larger companies and as individuals. So then we come together as an MSP and say, okay, how do we give the right level of service or that world-class professional service as a smaller company to smaller companies. So that was kind of the original goal. And like I said, it's been different because growing a culture with family, but then transitioning to a culture that feels like that with a bunch of other people is different, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And again, I've had several meetings now where, with enterprise level companies, larger companies, and to be able to have the VP of operations, the director of IT infrastructure on a call with me, the director of sales, I mean, that's rare when you work for a, enterprise level company. So to be able to have access to the executive leadership board, also more of the critical infrastructure. I mean, that honestly has set us apart.
Well, and I'm interested in that because we've not really had an opportunity to know how other MSPs are selling. I mean, we've heard from prospects what's been different. You always get some intel that way. But what's interesting is
Hmm.
that we really want the team to be accessible. We want our clients to know who we are. We want them to know that we're professional, that we have backgrounds in the types of work that we're doing for them. And I think part of that is letting them talk to people. And I know that in some other MSPs, that's not really common. Like if a client of ours says, hey, I'd like to talk with your director of infrastructure because I'd like to kind of talk about this specific part of our strategy, that's a-okay with us. You're not going to get charged extra. And I've heard that ends up being a big project call. So I don't know if you've been hearing
Yeah.
that from prospects, but I want to kind of before we get there, I want to talk about kind of your journey in selling and building relationships and transitioning to tech sales because you mentioned that that is not an area that you've worked in before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, as I mentioned, I've been 20 years of sales, and I've been working. My father was an immigrant from South Korea. I've been working since I was 6. So to be
Oh
honest,
my
I've been
gosh.
doing sales since I was 6 years old. And so for me, it's always been about relationships. We had a several restaurants in Arizona, Southern Arizona, and the way we kind of built our brand and our restaurant was kind of that, not only the family feel, but is to let every customer that came in feel like we knew them, feel like they were part of the family. So I've just carried that on into my sales experience. Mortgages. I was with a large PEO organization on the leadership side, and I've always just kind of carried on kind of that old school family immigrant mentality of make everyone feel like they're at home, make let everyone feel like they can ask me questions, and then I actually care about what they need versus I'm just trying to sell this product. So it carries over. It's carried over all these different years, different industries, and it's just for me. It's fun. I don't view it as a job. I don't view it as a kind of a difficult thing to do. It's really just being interested in the other party. And then you strike up a conversation. And if it comes down to technical talk that maybe is above my head, even, then that's when I bring in the VP operations or director of infrastructure. But I want them to know that hey, I care about it. I care about you. I care about your company, and I want to see you grow.
Well, and what's so interesting about that is it's like for so long in starting a company and running a company, you think about what that service set looks like, right? And at the beginning, we were like totally vendor agnostic, which we still are, but we really sort of put it in the hands of kind of the technical leader of the companies that we worked with, whether that was a CIO, a director of IT, a CTO, and said, okay, how do you want us to build this? And, a few years into that, we realized, wait a minute, that's not why companies are coming to us. They're coming to us for the recommendations, right? So that's like kind of version two is, okay, here's the stack that we think you should run on. And here is the IT infrastructure, IT ops stack that we come with as a service provider so that you don't have to buy all of that, right? So that was sort of version two. And I think where we're at now is in version three, 14 years into this, where we've kind of come up with a married version of that. So here are the things that we are going to come to the table with. And what technology do you have? If it's technology you love, we're in, we're totally vendor agnostic and we'll support that. But if it's technology you don't, then we've got alternatives for you. And so that's something that we've also talked a lot about is kind of this idea of customizing services. And so is that something kind of with the relationship building that helps or hinders sales, do you think?
Oh, it's been amazing, and surprisingly, it's been shocking to a lot of the prospects, um,
Really?
because a lot of the MSPs approach them with, "This is what we offer, and that's it." Pick A, B, or C, and that's really it. It's not really customized. You don't really get to, again, as I mentioned before, you don't get to speak to leadership, and it's just pick this, pick that, or pick this. We may be the cheapest, we may be the most expensive, or whatever it is. And so this new approach, this new version of being really truly consultative has really been eye opening because again, I've gotten responses from discovery calls and sitting down with prospects and other executive leadership at different companies, and they've said, "Oh, you can do that, you can do this," and it's truly what we try to do is we try to honestly, we don't work for them, we work with them to help them improve,
Yes.
and it's been just that has really opened the doors for a lot of conversation.
I love that because that's something that I feel like is inherent in the culture. And so it's fun to talk to somebody that hasn't been steeped in it like we have. And it's this idea that let's have a conversation. Like don't assume it's this way or the other way. Let's like talk about what it is you need. And when it comes to things like being able to customize a solution, it's important that we're able to talk with our prospects and not be so rigid. And I think that rigidity in services in general, I mean, you've sold services before, is really common, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and again, it's building that relationship, and it's funny because I've noticed that I catch, especially in when we're speaking to software executives, it kind of throws them off, but in a pleasant way where I'll just text them. I'll text them, "Hey, how you doing? Happy Monday. Hope you have a
Yeah.
great week." How, and if I know that they like a certain football team, I'll text them, "Hey, great game the other day."
Yeah.
That isn't normal. For me, that's very normal because I'm absolutely interested in building a friendship or relationship with them.
You're way more a relationship person than anything, I feel like. Like it's kind
Yes.
of, we've worked with other salespeople before, and there's like you're all salespeople are working hard or
Sure.
hustling. I don't mean a negative connotation of hustling,
Oh,
right? I
sure.
mean like
Yeah.
like waking up in the morning and making your contacts and doing all that. And there's a set of activities that all salespeople do. But the fact that the relationship at the forefront, I think, is really interesting or the relationship being the forefront is interesting because just like you were saying, the idea of working with versus for is something that I've always kind of had a hard time reconciling in a services business, right? Because when I hear people say, "Oh, Tenisi does that for us," it's like, no, can you just say IT? Because you've given us your IT department, right? We're responsible for your IT department. We work with your employees every single day. I want you to feel like we're in it with you,
Right.
right? With you, for you. It's about you. It's not about what Tenisi wants to do. And I think that that's something I love that you've noticed that because that's something that I feel like is inherent in what we do, but maybe isn't as normal in this kind of tech sales,
Oh,
like
I
you're
absolutely
finding,
agree.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times too. I'm having discussions with CTOs or director of IT services, and they're a little. I can tell that they're a little threatened by it because they don't want us to take their position. But that's not what we do. We work with
No.
them. We actually enhance what they do, and there's only a certain amount of time. I mean, say they have a team of 3, 5, 10, even 20, individuals within
Yep.
the IT department. Well, they have to figure out, they already have what their plan is for this quarter, next quarter, and so on. If there's a new project that comes up or they're having issues, they don't have the time to divert that time and manpower to concentrate on this. And that's what we're there for. We're there to make their life easier. And I think that's the one kind of thing that I definitely want to, what I try to relay to all these prospects that I speak to is that we're here to help you. We're not here to compete with you, take your position, and so on.
100%. And I mean, really, you're referring to the co-source services that we provide, where we go in as a part of someone's existing IT team. So, like you said, we work with people all the time, like that have IT employees. And I think for me, it's like one of these, the concept that I have on this is that we've done it many times. And if you're working in a company for the majority of your career, you've probably not done mail migration after mail migration, several a year, right? So you don't know the gotchas that we had to painfully learn, right? Same thing with things like building, an infrastructure operations guide, right? Like being able to document things is not necessarily everyone's strong suit. And so focusing on transparency, reporting, how we work together, I think are some of the things that we do a lot with existing teams. And like you said, projects come up all the time. What about compliance? Right? Like
Right.
compliance is another really big one that we talk to people about because internal teams don't always have the experience to tackle instituting a compliance framework.
Oh, absolutely. And one example, without actually naming names, they're in the medical field and they've had the same staff for 10 to 15 years, and they've been doing this migration and changing things in the last couple of years. It's a heavy lift. I mean, they have close to 1,000 employees. It's a heavy lift to do that. So compliance is something that they know they need to do, but they don't have the manpower for it. And that's the discussions we're having right now, that we can help with that. We can help with protection and compliance, because that way you can hit your goals. Again, and most larger companies report to a board of directors, especially if they're a nonprofit. So they don't have the time to divert that manpower.
Exactly. And part of what I love about our co-sourced clients is typically the existing team already has an incredible relationship with the end user base, right? The employees of that company. And if they are working really well with the employees, that's the last thing we want to mess with. Because people already perceive IT as I fix your computers. And what I
Right.
always talk about is that's a really important piece of it because that is the face of IT, right? Something's not working. I've got to go to someone. But the other pieces, the strategy, the, reporting, the compliance is not, again, something that I think a lot of IT employees have had the opportunity to implement from scratch. And so I just want to put a fine point on this is people shouldn't be worried to talk to a company like ours because we're interested in partnering, helping you scale, helping you grow, and putting in the right pieces so that you can kind of continue to provide that excellent service that you're already providing.
Exactly. And an important piece to that too, which is rare that I've seen in other companies I've been with, is that our leadership board, we're constantly looking to improve our internal operations.
A 100%.
So much so that so many companies out there, they provide a great service for their clients, but everything that they have internally is antiquated. What work we constantly do every Wednesday when we have our leadership meeting, it's constantly, all right, how can we make this more efficient? What can we do to improve this? And if we improve ourselves, we pass that along to our clients. So it's one of the things where we actually do what we say.
100%. And what's also very interesting is if I think back to 14 years ago, IT was going through this enormous kind of growth period with infrastructure virtualization.
Mm.
infrastructure, right? So that was still internal servers. It was still, on-premise applications, but on these internal servers that could run more than one application. It was a really big deal. Well, fast forward, we're 100% a cloud company. We don't have any, we have like one management server for the whole company. And I think that's part of it, right? Is this continually getting better, running on modern infrastructure, keeping track of the kind of the changes in technology. I definitely want to spend a little bit time talking about AI and selling and technology because that's been such a hot topic. That's, top of mind for people. But I think part of the interesting thing is that because we get to work across clients, we get to do this again and again and again, right? So kind of being at that forefront, but not too like we don't need our clients to be running on the most current things, but we need them to be open to it. So you talked a little bit about technical debt, right? And once you let your servers get old, once your applications are out of maintenance, once all of this stuff starts to happen, we refer to that as technical debt. And it makes running your company, your infrastructure, and scaling incredibly difficult because you've already not kept up. So how are you going to get move forward quickly, right? And so I think that's an interesting, like, here I am talking all the technical bits about it, and you're like, no, but I'm seeing that, right? And your client,
Oh yeah.
you're hearing that about the prospects, like things are kind of old. What do we do?
Yeah, and the thing too is it's interesting because we do have a lot of large clients that are a few hundred employees higher. It's the companies that are under 50 that again you don't know what you don't know, and
That's
they
right.
still have an internal server which they think, well, because it's in our office, it's safer, it's more
Right.
secure,
I know. We're
and
still seeing
so
this, right? You're
right.
still
Oh
hearing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Constantly, and it's interesting, it's getting them to understand that at that stage they're on the stage of scaling. The thing that's holding them back is honestly their technology. A lot of it is they've got old computers, old software. They have licenses for 10 different products when really they only need one, but they were told to get
Yes.
this and this, and it's not cohesive. There's not a plan. That's what I love about what we do. Our consultative approach is that, again, we'll help you scale that. We'll help you be more efficient, and everything can come in stages because people a lot of times they'll think that technology upgrades expensive, and yes, it can be expensive,
There can be
but
an
we're not going.
investment for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to say, hey, you have to do all this. We'll say, all right, let's do this in stages. What's your budget? What are you looking to do?
That's right.
How much do you want to grow? And then we'll plan it out for the next year, next foreseeable future. And really, it's consultative and we'll help you through the entire process.
I mean, I love this. And it's interesting because I'm talking to Cal State San Marcos. I'm talking to Miracosta because I want to do some like mentoring and teaching in the business school.
Yes.
And one of the classes I want to sort of develop is how do you build this IT strategy? Because what you were just mentioning is really all about the IT strategy. So you're at point A in your IT journey, which could include a lot of technical debt. What does that mean? Another thing that you talked about was shadow IT, right? You've got 15 tools that are, let's not say, let me scale that back. You've got 3 or 4 tools that do widely the same thing. So let's standardize one. So the interesting thing about your investment in IT is that a lot of times we find money sitting on the table. If you're investing in this technology that's old, and it's expensive, like we very commonly find that $175,000 in annual licensing on the table that we can actually we can take you off of that tool, migrate you to something cloud, migrate you to something more modern, and then you can take that annual savings and reinvest it in IT. And I think that that is something that is not super common. When we go in and see prospects, even if they've had an outsourced IT company, and I think this is part of why outsourcing gets a bad name, right? Things are out of date, things aren't working well, things are broken. And part of what's really tricky, and I think it's one of the main parts of our job, is how do we articulate what that strategy should look like so an executive team can understand it.
Yes, exactly. That's the great part about it, and that's why our leadership board that we have. I mean, the team. They were constantly thinking about things like that. The other thing too is with technology, and especially businesses or companies that are under 40s, to them, tech support is something you call when there's an issue.
Yes.
That's not what we do. We can do that, but what we try to do is we try to predict. All right, let's eliminate it. Have you had the kind of the same issues over and over? Okay, well, instead of just continually, just fixing that problem every time it comes up, let's figure out why is it happening? What do we need
That's
to
really
do?
common, right? That's really
Yeah,
common is getting in that break fix nightmare.
right.
This breaks every 3 months. My IT person comes in. By the way, they charge us a project fee for fixing it and it breaks again. And that's part of why I feel like the approach of let us take ownership of IT with you. And what I mean by that is we're on the hook. It's not
Yes.
like we're going to tell you you can't do something. It's that we're on the hook. So if something breaks, we're not charging you to fix it because you've already given us the responsibility. So it actually behooves us to do it properly the first time because we're not going to charge you to fix something that's broken in an environment we run. And that's a little bit of a nuance that I'm not sure people realize when they first start working with us.
Yeah, it definitely is something where they don't realize that. And the same thing goes for our cybersecurity or our protocols.
Yeah,
It again behooves us to stay protected because if they get compromised, we get compromised.
that's right.
So again, we're that's why we're constantly on this getting better agenda of all right, let's continue to figure out how can we avoid this, and we'll have the team go in. Do their research and they'll see issues where they'll say, hey, we need to take care of this. This is the process for us to migrate to this to be able to take care of that so you avoid any issues in the future. Will
Yeah.
there be issues? It's technology. There will
There's
always be
always
issues.
going to be issues. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I mean, part of why there's issues is that everybody has a different level of tech savviness.
Right.
And that's another thing that we spend a lot of effort on is like, hey guys, just because you're working with somebody that's a little bit older, that isn't used to cloud technology, that maybe isn't used to their new iPad as their field device or whatever it is, like, doesn't mean that we get to be condescending, right? We're
Yes.
here as a
That's
service
huge.
to them, right? And that's something that I think we heard a lot of the time is, tickets take too long to close. And I feel condescended to, and that feels terrible.
Oh
So
yeah.
we try to be like personable IT people.
Yes, and that's the thing that we do the monthly all employee call,
Yeah.
and it really is a family, and everybody has a personality. And the thing too is, and even going back to my previous company, and one of the prospects we just dealt with, that's a nonprofit. When every time I had any technical issues, I would call, and I would get nervous about the call because
Aw,
it would make me feel like I would hate to ask the question because they would make me feel like I don't, I don't know what I'm doing. So that's why I'm calling you. But
right.
they would make me feel bad for calling about it. And it was that kind of scenario. So then with this one prospect in particular, she runs operations for a nonprofit. She was, again, we have a good relationship. So she was open to the call. We had the call, but she was afraid to ask the questions. And I'm like, no, go ahead. Let's have a conversation. And because of the experiences that she's had with other MSPs that would kind of laugh at her if she asked the question.
It's awful. I hate to hear
Right.
that because it's kind of like IT exists for the betterment of a company. It doesn't exist
Right.
in its own little silo. And the other interesting thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is IT should be 100% aligned with business imperatives, i.e., compliance, business goals, all of those things. There is no IT project for the sake of IT. It all
Right.
ties into security, productivity, and service. So, why are we doing what we're doing? Well, we're doing it for one of those three reasons. And the service thing I think is huge. And it's kind of like, I feel like things have softened a little bit over the years because I don't know if it was COVID and us all realizing that we need to put an emphasis on the human relationship or what it was. But it feels like there's a little bit more openness to the idea that we're all human. So we're all going to make mistakes and we all need to treat each other like fellow humans above all else. So let's not worry about what skill you don't have. Let's just get you going on what you need to kind of do your job. I feel like that's sort of the underlying thought of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, I understand. I mean, there's a point when a company scales where they become so large that it is difficult to have kind of that human element, and that's why a lot of companies have gone overseas. Um, and so that's why, to me, again, we separate ourselves because we have localized help support, support desks,
That's
so that you're
right.
speaking to someone that's probably in your own city, somewhere on the West Coast, and it's something that they know how to speak to people, and they know how to really be able to get them comfortable enough to ask the questions. And we always read out the reviews of our help desk, and
It's my
they're amazing.
favorite. Yeah, we
Yeah,
get a
right,
lot of wizards and patient, and I
right.
love that. That's part of. I mean, Jude's talking about when we have our monthly meetings, we read the good comments that we've gotten from our clients, and that I always feel so good. Like if I'm having a bad day, I open up good comments and I think, "Oh, we're doing great things," and it makes me feel really good. So, I mean, I think this is a really good segue, right? Because we're talking about kind of how we're humans, how we're local, how we're in the United States, like all of this stuff. And then, of course, a few years ago, you get AI. And you fast forward to now, and now you have AI dialers who are calling for sales. You have AI phone screening who's screening those sales calls. It's so interesting. And when I talked to Carlo, and I don't know, I mean, he's our VP of Ops, and I've interviewed him on the show before. It's kind of interesting because he's like, I don't know what people are trying to do necessarily. Like, we're not even talking to each other anymore. So, I mean, are you seeing that kind of impact? I mean, you're a relationship guy. So, how is this impacting sales in general that you're noticing, if you're noticing at all?
Yeah, it is definitely. I'm seeing it. I speak to a lot of different, sales representative from different industries, and they've all implemented different strategies of AI, and it does. There's a little balance. We definitely need, and we're actually implementing within our system here, with the leadership board. So, and it's necessary. But as far as the human contact goes, it isn't there yet. Being able to build the rapport, be able to speak to somebody that's face to face via Zoom or face to face, that isn't there. So it really has to be kind of a balance. Do I use it? Absolutely. Do I
Of
use it to make
course.
my dials? No.
Right. And I think that's the big part of this. And I was just talking to a woman in my women's presidents organization group, and she was talking about these AI sales calls that you can sign up for, and you can have somebody make, an AI robot make, I don't know, 2,000 calls a day, and
Yeah.
hopefully they hit on a real person like two or three times. And then you got to figure out where you do that transition point and blah, blah, blah. Right. And the example I had is, Apple releases a new update and it screens calls. So every day, this is like literally, I think I've had two so far today. An AI dialer calls my phone screens it and says, "Oh, it's somebody that trying to give you a loan." I get like tons of these all the time. And I go, okay, but it's literally machines talking to machines. And
Yes.
so I think, where is that ever going to go? Because there's something interesting about all of the AI. And you're exactly right. We're automating, we're implementing AI where it makes sense. And also, I've talked to Brian on this podcast too, and also Josie Haynes on the podcast about AI and how you should implement it in a way that makes sense. And so I just think we're still in this weird kind of time frame of, does it actually make sense? And oh, by the way, at TenisiTech, I'm not trying to not have employees. I'm trying to have efficient employees. So this for me is not about reducing the number of team members we have. It's about clearing out the busy work. And I feel like that hasn't been arrived at for everybody yet.
Yeah, and I mean it is a new technology, and I mean, honestly, before it used to be year over year it would improve, but now it's week after week,
I
and it
know.
continues to improve and change. So the advancement, what we talk about today, it may change in 3 months, may change in 6 months, but yeah, I mean, I definitely am keeping an eye on it, and speaking with a lot of prospects and a lot of contacts. there, every you kind of have to. It's really
So
the way
that's
that
what I was going to ask you. What are prospects saying about AI, and what are their, I mean, what are they telling you?
it honestly is how they can utilize AI to make themselves more efficient. Kind of like what you said, they're not looking to scale back their employees. They're just trying to make it so that their employees are a lot more efficient, so that the day to day operations is run more efficiently, whether it's customer service, service delivery, whatever it is. They're trying to figure out, kind of like we are, of what they can utilize AI for.
Yes. And I love that. And I mean, we don't have to have this conversation again because I've had it, but, and people could listen to it. But I feel like it's one of those things where, like, once again, AI, the use of AI is a business imperative. This is not an IT project. This is what in your business could be automated, could leverage AI to take the strain off of your day to day employees. So, those things where mistakes are made, the repetitive tasks, it's like, where are your business use cases? And that's something that I think TenisiTech is going to be really excited to start diving into with our clients is let's kind of take a step back, because I think a lot of what happened over the last few years is AI is here, use it to do your job. And it's like, wait, do you mean,
Right.
what do you mean? It's like everybody kind of lost their mind on how you do a rollout. And like you said, it's just kind of a new technology that needs to be rolled out appropriately. So I think that that's going to be a really exciting place where we start spending a lot more time with our prospects. But I do think it's about, hey, you don't have to be doing this right this minute. You have to think about where you need it, right? Because if you're talking about documentation, if you're talking about, my favorite pet example of this is, categorizing tickets, which is what TenisiTech is doing. But I think we calculated it saved us something like 15 hours a week. Is
Right.
that, it was something like that,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Right.
that's crazy. That's like a whole, that's half of a person essentially. And that we don't need to just do some clicking. And by the way, nobody wants to do that anyways. So that's for me like where I want people to find that balance.
Oh yeah, I mean even on the sales side, I mean we utilize HubSpot for our CRM, and a lot of it you can set up cadences, but it's still kind of manual. You still have to kind of go through the process, set it up, and then it'll go on a repeat. It'll set out reminders. Well, the future with AI, it'll be automatic from start to finish, from first contact to closing the deal will be automatic. Once AI technology, we can figure out how to implement it. But
Yeah.
so I see a lot of benefits, and it'll cut out a lot of time for myself as well.
Yeah.
And
A
and
lot
it,
of
but
busy
that's what
work, right?
right, right.
But what's not going away?
Oh, the human contact, the
The human
connection.
contact, the relationship.
Yes,
And I think that that's part of why this conversation is so important. I know that, I've called places. I called a plumber and I spoke to their AI agent. And actually, the language part of it was pretty fantastic. It's like, hey, you're speaking to this AI agent, Allie. They always name him. And what do you need? And like I spoke in plain English, and that was kind of cool. Nobody called me back, by the way. So there's the relationship falling apart with AI. Do you know what I
right.
mean? I never got the call back like that I was expecting. Even though Allie said she was going to send the message out to whoever I was trying to get hold of. But the point is, like, I think that human element is never going to go away.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. There's a difference whenever you're right. If I call and I can tell it's an AI agent or a recorded message. Kind of like, okay, great. I gotta listen in. I gotta press 1, 2 to get to so on. I'm trying to get to the customer service. So I'm hitting 0, 0, 0, 0.
Exactly. 0 0 0 9 9 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then once I get to the person, then I'm like, okay, now I can get my question answered. But until then, I need that human contact.
Yeah. And I guess, like, in your experience, when you think about kind of relationship selling, which is what you've done your whole life, and I mean, that's the thing. I think when you look at sales, when you read about sales, they always talk about the relationship being kind of paramount to the experience that both parties have, right? So let's be able to talk about pricing. And if, your first quarter of services, you feel like that doesn't feel right. Let's have a conversation about it, guys. Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? So I think, like, when you think about relationship selling and how a company's focus on culture and community impact the way you sell, what does that mean for you as like a relationship person?
Well, I think there's definitely people that are very good at sales, but it's not necessarily they sell the product
Yeah,
and it's not the relationship. The thing about what I've seen kind of historically is they're going to have a hot first 6 months and then they don't sell again. The people, the sales representative like myself that sell on relationship, we get repeat business. We get happy
company to
clients that
company,
stay.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And that's your
Yes.
biggest endorsement is, and that's why besides really building that relationship, I love to really have clients whenever they refer other clients, potential clients.
That's
To
the
me, that's
best.
the best.
Referrals are the best.
Yes. So I don't need to sell it. It makes that process easier because, hey, I was just referred by one of their friends, one of their colleagues. Like, hey, go
And
talk
then
to
as a
June.
relationship salesperson, does it help you feel more confident if you feel like the company culture is behind you in that? Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Because there's always
yes.
that big kind of transition from sales to ops. And
Yes.
so if the ops culture isn't quite where the relationship culture is, then how does
Right.
that work out? I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
part of the big
absolutely.
win, right? And working
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
hmm
Yeah, in previous situations, again, I could, you know, build the relationship, I could get the sale, I can close the deal, and then now it's all right. Fingers crossed. Let's hope the operations can deliver on what I just said.
yeah, yeah,
And so, I don't exaggerate what the company can do. So, because I want
right,
to keep their expectations, in
right.
line. But inevitably, a lot of operations they fall back, they forget, they push things back, and they don't deliver on what I had initially, built the relationship on. The great, again, as I said, TenisiTech, the leadership board, everyone in the community is they have that getting better agenda. So I'm fully confident every time. Onboarding has been great. I mean, being able to get my contacts, messaging me saying, "Hey, that was easy, that was great," and
How
so
fun is that? I love
and
hearing
it,
it.
yeah, and it's funny because they're so used to what they've experienced in the past that they expected that onboarding to be such a large lift. And sometimes it is a large lift, but the great part about the team that Tenisi Tech has is they make it as easy as possible. They'll take you step by step. They'll have, a lot of times too, companies will set limits on how many times you can call customer support or get assistance. You only get an hour of this time. Tenisi Tech will get it done right, the first time. And if it's not done, they're going to put as much time as needed.
I guess that's another thing. Like for the services that you've sold before, when people call, do they get a human being like right away? Because we've got all the channels, right? We've got you can email us, you can chat us, you can call us. And
Right.
like we measure that to make sure that you're talking to a human, like you were talking about playing that whole 0000999 game to get to a person. Like that makes a difference, I feel like too.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. In the past, it's been a toll free number. You're not sure if you're going to get the same person. The onboarding process is something that's scheduled in advance and far out in advance, and you're not sure. You're not really prepped for what you need, what it's going to be like, and so it really has been a hassle to be able to get through that process. And Tennessee, it's been again. If you need to call us 10 times before the actual onboarding because, hey, you have questions on this, somebody's there to answer. And typically it's the same person.
Yeah, call us 10 times. In fact, call us one time. We'll give you an hour and we'll talk through all your concerns, right? I mean, it's like,
Right.
let's hash it out. So I guess like with your perspective, um, and kind of the way that I'm feeling about this conversation so far, or the conversation in general, is that companies I feel like every business group I'm in, every CEO circle I'm in, everybody wants to sell more, right? Companies want to grow. That's what we love to do as founders. But it feels like the culture, the attention to detail when it comes to customer service and continuous improvement, and the engagement of all levels of a team end up making your job that much easier. So for me, it feels like the big, at least my big nugget from this conversation is work on your culture. Because how many times do I still talk to CEOs that are like, no one cares about that? What does that do for your customers? I feel like we're understanding not only what it does, but how to articulate it.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right because say for example like the onboarding process, if the culture within TenisiTech wasn't good, that customer service call, that initial onboarding wouldn't probably go well. They'd be disengaged. They just wouldn't really be interested. But as soon as you speak to any individual within the company, everybody's engaged. Everyone really wants to, again, do their job and really partner with you to make your company better.
I love that. I love that this has been your experience. And I look forward to continuing this conversation as time goes on. I think as a CEO and as somebody who's been interested in culture for a long time, it's kind of heartwarming to hear that it has an outward effect. Right? Because I was really focused on the inward effect. Like, how do our people feel when they're coming to work? How do they feel when they're working with our clients? And by the way, clients that don't match the culture don't get to stick around either, right? It's like employees who don't match the culture don't stick around, neither do clients, because I think having that human experience is worthwhile. And so it is really encouraging. It's almost like a good checkpoint for me to have somebody like you who's focused on relationship, who's focused on community, come in and feel really confident in talking about us with the people that you have relationships with, again, regardless of what company you work at. And so this has been really fun for me because it's been kind of I don't know, I feel like I just got a gold star from our new guy. So I
Oh yeah.
totally appreciate that, June.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing too is, and the truth is that the economy right now is very difficult. A lot of companies are, having issues, and it's kind of a scary outlook as far as the economy goes. If you have a poor culture, it's gonna reflect on how individuals within the company speak about the company and speak to other companies. You're not seeing that with all the family. I like to call it the family of TenisiTech. Every time you speak to any individual, they're hopeful. They're looking to see, okay, how do we get better? They don't have this doom and gloom idea that honestly, speaking with a lot of different companies, there's a lot of people out there that are looking at that horizon, looking at it kind of in a doom and gloom um, mindset, and it's the culture. It goes back to the culture.
It's so interesting too, because that whole economic pressure that we're all feeling, including Tenisi Tech, right? It's interesting because it is one of the reasons why we want to look at how we can leverage AI to do, to take care of the busy work, not just throw a person at it, figure this out. But the other thing that I think a lot of companies are probably still exploring is the idea of outsourcing and how they actually end up saving money because you get the skill sets you need when you need them without paying for the expertise, of a really well seasoned person full time or many people full time. And so I think there's also, when we've talked about outsourcing in the past, there's also been that economic benefit. So I think it's kind of like the culture plus the economic benefit, can really end up helping people out. And so I think that, it's heartwarming to hear that you're getting nothing but good feedback. Obviously, we're going to have people that are upset and we're going to deal with those issues as they
Sure.
arise, but like the fact that overall it's been a positive experience is very encouraging. And I mean, what else can we do but hope that the economy is going to feel better to people, and let's help our clients get there, at least
Yeah,
with technology, at least where we
absolutely.
can.
You're right. And again, kind of going to that consultative approach, we're here to help. And, obviously, there's been prospects where we've done presentations, and they're just like financially, they're not there yet. And again, we're very flexible in our pricing as well because we can peel back things. But for me, again, building that relationship, I know they'll be back because at some point they're going to want to re-engage
They'll
with
be
us because
ready.
of that
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, June, I appreciate so much you coming to chat with me about relationship selling and how things are different with AI and the economy and all of that. And it's just been a complete pleasure to have you on board. And I just look forward to years to come. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and look forward to see what 2026 brings.